time to battle, I'll find them all. I felt the whips and remember chains, but my soul has been forged by my father's flames. Fight your fears and heal your pain, and victory will be in your name.
I used to be weak, but I'm not weak no more. I found the strength of my ancestors deep down in my African core. I used to be frightened, I'm not afraid no more. The Father blessed me with the heart of a lion and a warrior soul. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David turns Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people, you go meet it up. Pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. No man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them.
Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You're everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of flesh. Send down your warriors with the hello, they carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming, I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could it be that we is my soul?
No weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. I am a man, I am a champion, I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the various radio stations. 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 91.9 and 91.5 RealFM radio. 92.9 Cicero Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video stream, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. A very special good morning to you. It is a beautiful Thursday morning in the Spice Isle of Grenada, and of course, we are happy to be alive. There's so much going on right now, and every morning that we get up, that we inhale that we enjoy a breath of life, we should be thankful for that. So, guys, this morning in studio with me, I have two very special guests, and they are Constable Franklin and, of course, Sergeant Hamilton, and they're attached to the Royal Grenada Police Force Fire Department. Now, their job here today, or their duty here today, is to speak about fire safety. And as we all should know, we are in the month of fire awareness, all right? And I'll give them an opportunity to say good morning. Good morning, Sergeant Hamilton.
Good morning, Miss Duncan, and good morning to your listeners and viewers around the world.
All right, and good morning, Constable Franklin.
Good morning, Madam Host, and good morning to the listening air and the wider diaspora.
All right, it is a pleasure having you guys here this morning, and timely as well. The month of February is Fire Awareness Month, and we are. It's necessary that we talk about this because was it only yesterday that there was a fire in the area of Munich, I believe? Maribor. I know it started with M. Maribor, and we've seen over the past few months a lot of fires in different places. In most cases, it's fires that have consumed whole livelihoods, so it is timely that we speak about this, that we take some time to pay attention to that. But I know you guys are doing a series of media engagements to spread the awareness. Where are you guys headed to next after here?
From here, we are going to WeiVybz.
Mm-hmm.
That will be on the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
The 22nd will be at WeiVybz.
Okay, at WeiVybz. Now, I want us to start off with, because I know we have a lot to talk about, but I want to start with the hard stuff, the statistics. Can you give us a comparison, really, of the amount of fires that we've had this year as compared to last year?
Okay. Good morning again to the listeners and viewers. And before I get into that aspect of it, I would like to say pleasant morning and bring greetings from the officer in charge of fire department and the rank and file of the fire department, and in particular the Royal Grenada Police Force in general. Fire Awareness Month is observed in collaboration with the National Disaster Management Agency. February set aside as Fire Awareness Month as we are heading into the dry season, and to create more awareness of fires and its effect on the environment, and also to bring into focus the general aspect of structural fires. Yes? So this year we are observing Fire Awareness Month under the theme Building Resilience Through Fire Prevention and Safety. And we think it is very important that we build resilience relative to fire prevention and safety, relative to what actions one can take at the home or in the business places or within their own land space, when you do like farmers and so forth, what you can do to reduce the risk of fire occurring to as low as reasonable possible. Hence the theme.
Right.
And we have to look at it in a broad, very broad, because building resilience, you want to talk about from the design stage of a structure to the end stage. Are we building buildings to burn? Right. Are we installing the necessary safety equipment and so forth in it to protect the building and its occupants? What we are doing in the wildfire environment, what farmers are doing. Are we encouraging farmers to try alternative than just burning? What's about composting? Right. Yes. What are we doing as homeowners?
Right.
Our responsibility. What about purchasing a fire extinguisher? Purchasing a smoke alarm? Having an emergency action plan in the event of a fire occur at your home so you and your family can evacuate and get to a place of safety. Mm-hmm. Those things, we want to drill down on, especially during this month of awareness and continuing along. Okay. Yes?
Now, what are some of the things that, because you've covered a lot in that statement, and I want to just hone in on just a few things because it is, as homeowners, of course, and we'll start there, our responsibility to ensure that we protect our livelihoods, right? To ensure that when we're leaving the house, and it happens to most of us, I know it happens to me sometimes, where we are so busy to leave our house in the morning that we forget things. You know, some people to the point where they may forget an iron plugged in, or they may leave switches on and so on. What are some of the things that we can do to help prevent the occurrence of a fire in our home?
There are several things a homeowner, a business person can do to prevent fires occurring in the home. There is what we refer to as a risk assessment before you leave your home. You make some checks. You make certain that those things are unplugged. For example, if it's, let's say, a family of 4, you assign a specific responsibility to that person before you leave the home. If everybody's living in the house together, if you're the last person living in the house, you want to make sure that all the appliances that you use, for example, your phone charger, your iron, your curling pin, and those types of things are unplugged. Right? Your gas is turned off. In fact, the only appliance you should leave plugged in when you live in your home should be your refrigerator.
Right.
Right. So you want to make sure that all other appliances that use electricity is turned off.
Right.
You want to make sure your gas for your stove is turned off. You want to make sure also that flammable materials are stored separately from other materials in the house. So, for example, your gas, your kerosene, and so forth, like persons who use weed eaters, you want to make sure that it's stored to a low amount and in a place well outside the house.
Right.
You want to make sure that matches, lighters, and other things that can spark a fire are kept away from children. If you have elderly persons in the house, you want to make sure that you put all the necessary things in place so he or she wouldn't have to get up to try to cook the food or to warm the food. You understand? So you do a general risk assessment and you reduce the risk of all those hazards that can cause harm to as low as reasonable possible.
Okay. All right. I know we are all guilty of that. Sometimes I do it as well. And I wouldn't say it's so much of a plan, but most times when I leave home in the morning, I try to get into the practice of making sure that I tell my kids, listen, make sure you unplug your chargers or turn off the switch on the wall or things like that. So it's something that we have to be cognizant of and something that we have to try to practice as much as possible, even though our lives are very busy, very busy. And you spoke about fire extinguishers. I know it is not a practice in Grenada for people to have fire extinguishers in their home. It's not a practice. I think, I don't know, maybe we think it's an Americanized thing, maybe we think it's not necessary, but how do we access a fire extinguisher, and also explain the different types, because I know you can't use the same fire extinguisher for all kinds of fire. So let us know what the different kinds are, where we can access it, and things like that.
All right. Good morning once again. There are different types of extinguishers. We advise persons to invest in one, whether it be your home may be 10 by 10 or even smaller or greater. We want to admonish persons to purchase one in order to prevent total destruction of their home.
Right.
You may take a lifetime to build your home so that you can be comfortable, but it only takes 3 minutes or less than 5 minutes for it to be totally ruined by fire. Right? And if you do not have the necessary measures in place to assist you in order to combat total destruction, you'll be at loss. So we admonish persons to buy a extinguisher, basically class A, B, and C, and I will get into the type, and I will explain. All right, there are different classes of fires, different class of extinguishers. All right, so you have class A, B, and C, and I will stick here basically because there are other classes, right? But these are the main areas of concern that person should be aware of, especially in your homes, domestic and so forth, right? The class A is the ordinary combustibles, right? Your paper, your wood, and so forth. The class B would be your oil and gas, and you have the class C, the electrical fires, right? So in investing with the class A, B, and C extinguisher, you have the 3 classes combined, right? So you do not have to go and buy a class A, B, and C separately, right? So you have a class A, B, and C comprised all in one.
Okay.
Right?
And where can I purchase that? Does the fire department sell those, or where can I go exactly to get a fire extinguisher?
All right. We do not sell the extinguishers. We do not service them either. We only advise. But there are a few companies within the island that sell those stuff, and you can also get other items there to safeguard your homes. For example, Universal Fire and Safety. You have Rufus Fire Service, and a few other companies.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. And I think it's important also for a plan, a specific plan for in the event of a fire. Now, there may be an instance where you are at home one night, you're sleeping, and you smell smoke all of a sudden. What do you do? What is the best plan? Let's say we're giving the general public a plan that a blueprint that they can work with. What would you say would be the best possible thing for them to do, or even to advise their children to do?
All right. It's basically simple. Each household should try and have an emergency plan, and not just for fire. Right? You shouldn't think only fire, because some other destructible cause may come about, and you may have to evacuate your home. So it shouldn't be only fire. All right. But as we admonish businesses when we go and do inspections, they must have an emergency plan if something happened, what they should do. Each household should come up with a plan in the event of something happening, what they should do. And if they need assistance in doing so, they can liaise with the nearest fire department. We have 6 substations throughout the island. You can liaise with the departments for some assistance in preparing the plan. Also, when you are going to sleep at night, you'd always hear sleep with your door closed. Some persons might be stubborn. Yes, it's hot, I need some breeze. You want to open the window, but there are reasons for that. And we're speaking fire here, right? I'll go into the fire triangle. For fire to occur, you need heat, oxygen, and fuel, right? And these are the 3 elements, right? With those combined together, you have a fire, right? And the reason for sleeping with your door open, you are limiting, closed, sorry. The reason for sleeping with your door closed, you are limiting the oxygen that is coming in.
Right.
Right? So if a fire were to occur in your room, you do not have the oxygen that is required for it to be that destructible. It may just burn at a minimal and die. But if you have your door open or you have a window, you have oxygen coming in, you may find it escalating and getting worse. And you having your door closed, you see fire, you're going to panic.
Yeah.
You're going to panic. Sometimes your window is probably 15, 20 or more feet for you to jump out. What are you going to do? Your door is closed. There's fire close to your door. What are you going to do? You're going to stay inside there and suffocate, and then you're burn. Right? So we're asking persons to have a plan. Right? Have an emergency plan. The plan is important, and it should be revised probably once a month or so by the household. And every 6 months you look at it and see what we need to change and what needs to be tweaked a little bit so that we can be good at it in the event that something happens.
Okay. All right. Now, we covered the household. I know that the fire department, before COVID occurred, started embarking on a school safety program. A school fire safety program. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about it and where we're at right now with that?
In 2020, the department again collaborated with NADMA to introduce the school safety program, where officers from the department together with NADMA assisted the schools in preparing evacuation plans. A school is an area where you have a large amount of people gathering together for the purpose of learning. And a hazard can occur that can affect the operations of the school and its environment. And as such, we partner with NADMA to execute that program last year. However, we got stopped in our tracks because of COVID. And we are eager to resume that aspect of things once we return to a greater state of normalcy. Yes, so the whole idea about evacuation, we really want to get it into the people, and one area to start is at the schools.
Right.
And as the saying goes, once you teach a child about fire safety, that child will take the information and bring it back to his home. And like for example, a student, he said, "Mommy, Miss say this is how it's supposed to be done."
Yep.
And they will come home and say, "Mommy or Daddy, the fireman said so." You understand? So we're trying to get that level of education and create and have that behavioral change, lifestyle change in terms of fire prevention, safety, evacuation, and so forth. Because any hazard can affect the school. If you look at the locations of our schools, some are in low-lying areas, which is subject to flood and the whole aspect of tsunami. We have that of earthquake, and some are in areas where we have manufacturing, and so forth. So we want to make sure that schools, the management of the schools, the principal staff, they can safely evacuate the school, account for the students, and have systems in place so the parents can come in and collect them. And also it makes our work easier. If a hazard occurs and we have to respond, we have an appreciation of the amount of students that was in the school at the time of the incident. Yes, what amount have been evacuated, and if students are trapped and where they are. So search and rescue efforts will be concentrated on that area. Yes. So we look forward when we return to a greater state of normalcy, where we can go back into school and continue with the school safety program.
Okay. Well, I have a suggestion, especially now that more virtual learning is taking place, which means that more children are at home, and of course, in most cases, at an age where they can remain home unsupervised, or they're home with a big sister or a big brother or an auntie or grandma maybe, conducting that online session. I have a suggestion maybe that the fire department can collaborate with the schools to do a more general session, an online session maybe with the students. In that way, you're covering a very important base, which is reaching the children in their natural environment, where they're at home, where they can go, okay, fine, go and check to see how many plugs in your house, was left on this morning. How many of you checked to make sure that your light switch in your bedroom was off, or that you unplugged your charger, and even the very important task of not using your appliances or your devices, that is, while they are plugged into the charger as well, because that in itself is a fire hazard, So even reaching them while they're in the natural habitat, that might be something to look at.
It's a very interesting suggestion, and it's something we could look into and see how work together with the Ministry of Education to see how we could get that in play. Because as you suggested, we will be reaching a wider cross section of people. And we'll be bringing the information directly to the place of residence, so they can identify hazards within their own home environment and take the necessary measures to reduce it.
Of course, because education is all about relatability, and if they can relate to the environment that they are most in, then at this time, of course, then it would help us a lot.
Yeah, you're correct. And again, that's the whole idea of Fire Awareness Month, you understand? To put fire on display in the front and center of people's mind.
Absolutely.
Yes, and that's why we have February as a month. But however, fire safety doesn't stop at the end of February. It continues throughout. Yes? So it is the intention of the department through its partners to continue to speak on fire prevention and safety, work with other stakeholders in developing public service announcements, so it can be readily available for persons. Because ever so often we have a house fire.
Yeah.
One house fire is too much.
Absolutely.
One business house fire is too much. Yeah. You understand? So the whole idea is of the program of fire safety, in fact, is to reduce risk, to as low as reasonable possible.
Okay.
You understand? So that is why we are observing fire month now, and that's why you're gonna see a continuous presence of the fire department on radio and television and other platforms speaking on fire prevention and safety.
Okay.
Yes.
One thing I noticed that we don't do as well as a people is to check our electrical setup in our homes. We don't call in the electrician ever so often and say, hey, come and make sure everything is flowing the way it's supposed to flow. Come and make sure that everything, that I don't have a plug that is sparking, or if I do have a plug that's sparking, how can I get it changed as quickly as possible? Because these are all things that are fire hazards. But how often do you recommend that a house or a business have their electrical installation checked?
Businesses should have the electrical installation checked every 5 years. Yes, to ensure that you are compliant based on the load, the amount of electrical outlets, the appliances you bring into your home, and so forth. Yes, you should have your home inspected every 5 years. Again, if you have electrical problems, a breaker is tripping off ever so often, then you need to bring a qualified electrician to conduct an assessment and to determine what is the problem.
What is the problem?
A breaker tripping off means you have a short somewhere, and you need to have that addressed soonest.
Right.
The whole idea, sometimes we do, you have a fuse that is burnt, or blown, and you take whatever it is and you wrap around with, and you put it back in and you go.
Yep.
But you should have that fuse replaced with one of the same ratings.
Right.
You have broken electrical wires, right? And you just take any piece of tape and you just tape around it and you have it using. However, you need to have proper electrical tape. If it is possible, it all depends where the cord is damaged. You replace the entire cord.
Right.
Any issues you have with electricity, it should be checked out by a qualified electrician. Not any fly-by-night person you pick up on the side of the road.
Right.
And you bring them to your home to look at it.
Right.
For example, let's move on slide away from electricity, but let's go to the kitchen. Your stove.
Yeah.
You have a problem with your stove. Every time you turn on the burners, it's leaking. It's leaking directly in the area where the knobs are.
Right.
You should have a qualified stove repair technician to come in and have that sorted out. Don't take the risk and continue cooking.
Yeah.
For example, it should be elementary. The whole idea about lighting your oven.
Yeah.
Some people still turn on the gas, right? And then open the oven door and strike the match.
I still. I'm sorry, I do it.
And then you have an explosion. Yes.
Yeah.
So what you should do first, open your oven door fully, right? Strike your match, you have the flame, and then you turn your knob, and you bring your flame close to the source, or the gas to the burner, so you can light.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that, honestly.
So, for example, you might come home again from work, and you're getting a strong smell of gas inside of your house. What you going to do? The first thing you do, you turn off your mobile phone. You don't put on any light switches. Open your doors and windows, right? If you have a wet cloth, cover it over your nose. Go to the kitchen, right? If it is possible for you to do so, it all depends on the amount of gas vapors that is in the atmosphere. Yeah. Turn off your gas. If you have a 20-pound cylinder, you turn it off. If you have a 100-pound cylinder, somewhere on the outside of your house, you will have that valve where you can switch off your cylinder. Call a qualified stove repair technician to have the problem sorted out.
Okay.
The reason why we're asking you to do not put in your light switch or put on your mobile phone, when you put in the light switch, light produces heat. And it all depends on the amount of gas that is in the atmosphere. You could have spontaneous ignition, which can result in an explosion.
Right.
Why we ask you not to use your mobile phone? When you key into your mobile phone, it produces static electricity. And it all depends on the amount of gas in the atmosphere. You could have an explosion.
Right.
The reason why we ask you to open your doors and windows for ventilation, so the odor, the gas vapors can dissipate throughout your house.
Right.
The reason why we ask you to cover your nose with a wet cloth to prevent you as far as possible breathing in all that amount of fumes, because probably in your quest to find where it is leaking, yeah, you may fall, you may become unconscious. You understand? So those are some of the things you can do. If this odor is very, very strong and you come home, I would advise you not to go inside. Stay outside, call in the fire department. We will send a response team. If you have a 100-pound cylinder, call your service provider and we will sort things out. Okay. Sometimes you have situations where a 100-pound gas cylinder is leaking on a property. We have to respond to those things.
Right.
So apart from structural fires and so forth, the fire department provide a number of services. Apart from fire suppression, we do search and rescue, hazardous material incidents and so forth, and building inspection, fire safety programs and so forth.
Okay.
So the areas we cover are fast, and we have personnel who are trained and qualified in those areas to provide a level of service to the general public.
Okay. And that is interesting to know, because often we feel that, well, the fire department is only to be called when somebody lights a bushfire, or when there's a fire that is beyond our control, then we call the fire department. But it's good to know that you guys are also available for a number of other safety functions as well. And I want us to move directly into what we consider bushfires. In my opinion, and this is not statistically speaking, because I know you guys have the statistics, but in my opinion, I see less and less bushfires, out of control bushfires than years gone. I live in Mount Morris, so I know that I see you laughing. I know the trouble that we have had over the years when it comes to bushfires in Mount Morris, and I must say that has greatly diminished over the years. I'm not sure about other parts of the country, and you can tell us about other parts of the country, and is that so for them as well?
All right. Let me apologize to one of my sister stations. I said 6. We have seven substations.
Oh, okay.
That would be Victoria included. So I apologize to my comrades in Victoria. Yes, there have been a reduction in the area of bushfires. I could tell you mainly, but so far, it is because we have been doing what is required of us. The laws are there. We are enforcing it. We have persons who have been charged and brought to court and fined.
Wow.
So they are spreading the message and they are learning. And if you are going to burn, and you are going to burn for agricultural purposes, there are procedures that one needs to follow. Okay. First, you need to apply for a license. Okay. I'm going to say it here. The fire department throughout the island of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique does not give license. Okay. You need to apply to the Ministry of Agriculture for the license.
And that is a license specific for
burning for agricultural purposes.
So it's not your farmer's license. It's something specific to burning. Okay.
To burning. All right. And once it's for agricultural purposes, you need to get the license from the Ministry of Agriculture, and we'll be notified from there. In getting the license, there are guidelines that one needs to follow. All right. We need to be given a copy of the license. They will tell you when to burn, the time to burn. They'll give you a period that you should burn. And within that period, you should complete your operation. If not, you just apply for another license again. Also, when persons are burning, they need to inform their neighbors. And that is one of our main area of concern for the fire department throughout the island. And it's sometimes trivial issues where your neighbor set a fire and you could simply tell them that, hey, I'm being affected, to if they could get it, if they could extinguish it and these sort of things. And probably because of some grievance, or they decide they don't want to. They call the fire department, which is within their right, to deal with the situation. And when we get there, something so trivial.
Right. Right.
It only takes a bucket of water, or it only says, "Hey, Sergeant Hamilton, your smoke is affecting me."
Right.
And if persons are have a level of understanding, they would simply put it out and apologize. But persons find they're probably big enough, too big, to simply speak to the other party, or they have their issues and so forth. So, and this is where persons are being charged basically for failing to inform their neighbors. Failure to do so would cause you to be charged. Right? Once a report is made and the necessary information and the procedures that we need to follow are taken, persons may be charged. Right? When you are setting fires, again, you need to be mindful of your surroundings, where you live. You need to have water close by. You need to clean your surroundings. And also with the license again gives you the guidelines, the procedures that need to be followed.
Okay.
All right? It tell you clean your surroundings, have water close by, burn in small heaps.
Right.
Persons would normally, they cut down a whole tree. I want to set the whole tree on fire. And then it probably gets out of control and they call the fire department.
Yeah.
Right? They need to follow the necessary precautions. And there's a fine for failing to comply to the Agricultural Act. It's no more than $500 or imprisonment. The 3 months in prison. The discretion lies on the magistrate. You could be fined and confined.
Okay.
And just recently, I was successful with 2 matters where persons were fined for setting fire to bush without having a license.
Wow. And that goes for, okay, so we've spoken about for agricultural purposes. Let's say I am at home and I clean up my surroundings. I got someone to come and clean my yard and so on, and that person has to get rid of, or I have to get rid of all of the grass and so on that has accumulated. Do I have to, as a civilian, do I have to go ahead and apply for a license or inform the fire department? What is my role in the community for that?
All right. Basically, the kitchen gardens are small. All right. It simply boils down to taking the necessary steps. The kitchen gardens. In my humble opinion, I don't believe somebody doing a kitchen garden probably at just a few feet or centimeters wide, you just clean up and these sort of things. You just need to follow the precautions. Inform your neighbors, burn in small heaps, have your water close by. And I do not advise persons to burn on a weekend.
Right.
Because persons at home, they are washing and these sort of things. But with the agricultural license, the license tells you when to burn.
When to burn.
Right? But if you are doing your stuff home, I do not advise that you burn. I'm not saying no, you cannot do it. I just do not advise. Because you have persons whom you're going to cause inconvenience. Right. And these are things that we have to remember. Right? And section 146 and 147, cap 72A, speaks of the Fires Act, And the Agricultural Fires Act, cap 6, volume 2, speaks of the Agricultural Act.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. I think maybe what needs to happen is more information needs to be put out there, especially for the general public. So I have my farmer's license. I know when I'm supposed to burn, how I'm supposed to burn, and all of these things. I have the right to do so. And my neighbor, as you say, may have a grievance or may be ignorant of the fact that I am able to do what I am doing. Call the fire department. Now, you guys have to respond to something like that, and it's only until the time has been wasted to get all the way there to find out, okay, well, this person is working within the confines of the law. So I think more education is needed in terms of what the farmer's license allows for someone to do. When am I supposed to burn? So my neighbor know I'm a farmer, and I am burning, let's say, whenever it is I'm allowed to do so, they don't get upset, and of course informing your neighbors. I think it is best. And that's part of the education process too. When you inform them, you walk with whatever your guidelines are so they see that you are working within the confines of the law.
And part of the guideline in the license, it tells you that you should call the fire department when you're about to burn to notify us. So you live in Monkmorris, someone from Monkmorris comes, you have your license, they call, there's a fire, a guy walking some land, or he just got some brushes and he set fire to it. We'll check our license, give the person a call, and if it's them, we'll ask them to follow the guidelines and to try and minimize the burning.
Right.
All right. So the guidelines are in the license. All right. And your copy is for you to follow.
Okay.
All right. And also you can be charged for failing to follow the procedures. Yep.
Wow. Well, that is important information to have out there, and of course, it's also advised for individuals to find out from neighbors, because even though you may have the right to do it, you have to also have a little consideration as well for people within your environment with respiratory illnesses that may be really affected by you burning whatever. So you let them know beforehand so that they can make the proper arrangements to maybe not even be in the area while you're doing what you're doing, so some consideration as well is needed in that department. I want to
just allow me to come in here. Section 147 and 146 of the Use of Fire Act make provisions for persons to give notice to the neighbors, right? Express the interest, notice to the neighbors, let them know that I am going to be doing this between a particular time. Yes? And so the neighbors, the person who is going to be affected should take the necessary step, you understand?
Right.
To avoid inconvenience to them. Because what the law requires of the individual is to give notice. And although the law didn't speak about a reasonable time,
right,
but the person who intends to burn should have some level of reasonableness within them. I don't expect for you to come now, this morning, and tell me that you want to burn this afternoon. You give me advance notice. So if I have clothes outside, if I might probably intend to do laundry in that day, my child might be home, it might be asthmatic, I might have allergies to smoke. So I can take the necessary precautions to avoid exposure to the smoke.
Right.
The same way, on the other hand, someone who applies to the Ministry of Agriculture for a license to set fires in agricultural land, and agricultural land under the Agriculture Fires Act speak to lands that have been prepared for agricultural purposes, right? Land that is being used for agricultural purposes, right? In the course of preparation and being used. So if you purchase a piece of land and you intend to use it for agricultural purposes, it is considered in the eyes of the law that is in the course of preparation. And if you already have a portion of land that you have agricultural crops growing on, it is considered under the law to be agricultural land. Okay. And notwithstanding that you have a license to burn, yes, you can also be charged for failing to give notice to neighbors within the area.
Right.
You understand? Again, you may apply for a license, and the ministry or the extension division of the Ministry of Agriculture can deny you.
Right.
You understand? The license, they will, in fact, the license requires for the persons from the extension division to visit your property to appraise themselves of the area and to determine if burning is necessary.
Right.
And if burning is not necessary, then they refuse your license. Again, also, the same act says if you apply in writing or in person for a license, yes, and you didn't get a response within 10 days, then you're at liberty to go ahead and set fire. However, you're at liberty because you didn't get a response from the Ministry of Agriculture, right? But you are liable to, if that fire would have got out of control and burned somebody else's property.
Right.
You understand? You will be liable again if you didn't inform neighbors.
Right.
You understand? And we want persons to be aware of those things. A lot of those fires, bushfires we experience in recent times, was caused by farmers through the negligence.
Right.
And sometimes are caused by persons who are hunting and other idle persons within the community We also have that with persons who are involved in the debushing program. You clear a portion of bush and rubbish by the road, and you light it, and you go. The fire burns up a hill and turns into a wildfire. You understand? So we want the general public to be aware of the dangers of fires.
Right.
And while we're on this, let me just come in here and give you some statistical data relative to a response for the year 2020 and 2019 to 2020. Yes? In 2019, responded to 51 dwelling house fires. In 2020, we responded to 42. So we had a reduction. Business house fires in 2019, we had 5. In 2020, we had 8. Vehicular fires. In 2019, we had 13. Sorry. Vehicular fires in 2020, we had 13 fires involving vehicles. Boat, in 2019, we had 16. 2020, we had 2. Electrical fires. 2019, 16. 2020, 11. Factories, place of manufacturing and so forth, we had 1. In 2020, 0 in 2019.
Okay.
Bush and rubbish fires. All right, so let's look at bush. Bush in 2019 was 130.
Wow.
Bush in 2020 was 150.
Wow.
Yes. And rubbish fires in 2019 was 86. 2020, 103. And we have a category of fires that we refer to as other. So they don't fall under all the general categories that I mentioned. We had other. The categories under the category was other. We had 30 in 2019 and 37 in 2020. And false calls, that's when someone called the department and report a fire. And when we respond, there is no fire in that particular area. For example, in 2019, we had 6. In 2020, we had 12.
We have people that idle.
Yes, ma'am.
That would call the fire station.
Yes, ma'am.
And report a non-existent fire.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
So while we have a reduction in the amount of structural fires, particular dwelling houses, from 51 to 42, but 42 is too much. You understand? For a small island like Grenada, 133 square miles. When I say Grenada, you include Carriacou and PG. Yes? So 42 is too much.
Yeah.
You understand? And if we look, for example, for January thus far, this year, yes? January, I'll compare 2020 to 2021. Dwelling house fires. We had some 4 in 2020, right? Just give me a minute.
No problem. We know how technology goes sometimes.
We had 4 in 2020, but in 2021 we already have 8.
Wow.
Yes. So that's a huge increase. Yes.
It is.
All right. Vehicular fires. We had 1 for that month in 2020. 2021 we have 0. Right. Electrical we have 0 for the year thus far. Let me just go into the fires directly. So for bushfires, 2020 we had 2. For January 2021 we have 3. Rubbish fires, January 2020, 3, 2021, 4. That's going under the category of other. We had 2 for that period and 1 for 2021. So in terms of false call, January last year and January this year, we have 2.
For both?
Yeah. Last year, January 2020, we had 0. January 2021, we have 2.
Okay, so I have a question, and I'm glad that you brought up the false call issue. So let's say, for example, a neighbor, being malicious in their intention, decides that every time a neighbor lights a fire, I'm going to call the fire department and I'm going to make a complaint. Now, what are the penalties for that individual who sees it fit to just be basically a nuisance? to their neighbor, and of course an inconvenience to the fire department as well. What are the penalties for such an action?
If the person is setting fires and not following the procedures, then the person will be liable for prosecution under the various breaches of the law. So you have the Use of Fire Act, and if it is for agricultural purposes, they will be prosecuted under the Agricultural Fires Act.
Right, but what if the person that is, it's not the person that's burning the fire, but the person that is consistently making that complaint? Now, we know that the person that, and every time the fire department goes, it's either that the person has complied, the person has informed the neighbors and done everything that they're supposed to do, but that person just feels that every time my neighbor lights a fire, I am going to call the fire department.
We look at the whole idea of conflict resolution. Probably bring some new ideas to the person, alternative to burning. What about composting? Yes? So if you can compost, then you remove the risk of this person calling, because this person might have a genuine concern. They might have some health issues. You understand? So we try to make sure that the situation is resolved amicable. If we could get the matter resolved outside of court, it's all well and good. You understand? If the person is so aggrieved, then the matter goes to court. But once the person follow the right procedures, right, they do what is expected. For example, if I go into burn, I have a hostile neighbor, I will ensure that I have a witness with me. I will go to you and speak to you. Right. And if every time I'm getting resistance, I will have to look at alternatives. Right. You understand? Should I continue burning? How can I dispose of the waste? You understand? Should I dig a hole at the back of my land and put the bush in it? Because sometimes what you're burning around your home is basically stuff that can be easily taken away by the garbage truck, because you're already paying the, your levy through your electricity bill for the removal of some of the materials. Right. You understand? For example, you might cut the grass around your home, right? And you have a banana stool at the back of your property. You take that grass and you put it into the banana stool, so it comes as composting. So we have to look at alternatives from burning. You understand?
Absolutely. I'm going to open the lines at this time for persons or individuals who want to give us a call, ask a question, and add to the conversation. The number to call is 440-7377 if you're calling locally. If you're in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, the number to call is 347-329-3101. We also take questions via the live video stream and also WhatsApp calls and WhatsApp messages as well. We do have a question on the live video here. It reads, does the Grenada Fire Service use the NFPA?
The North American Fire Protection Association is a standard that is used by the North American countries. And Grenada has its own standards. Okay. Yes. However, we work closely with other standards, locally, regionally, and internationally. Okay. Yes.
All right. I want us to move into how we as civilians operate around emergency vehicles. I think it was sometime in the early part of this year, an individual called expressing frustration. No, it was last year. Expressing frustration because there was an accident and the ambulance had taken the person, and there was this individual driving in front of the ambulance the entire way. I think it was out of California or something like that. How are we as a people supposed to operate in the presence of emergency vehicles? All
right. There's law and procedures that needs to be followed. And once they are not followed, persons will be dealt with according to law. And I could tell you just recently, we were responding to a bushfire in the south of the island, and minibus stop off the bus stop to pick up a passenger. We are going down the road with the fire plans. They heard the siren. They have traffic pile up. The oncoming traffic gave way to their plans. The bus proceeded. And we were behind the bus, like we actually on our drive with the bus. Oh, wow. Right? But the law says that on hearing the siren of an emergency vehicle, I'm not just speaking for the fire department and the police, I'm speaking for the other entities. You should give way. You should pull to the left side of the road and stop. I expound on stop because persons do not stop. Persons tend to pull to the left side and take the time and drive along. The law says that you should pull to the left side of the road and stop. And failure to do so, you could be charged for failing to give way to the emergency vehicle.
Okay.
All right. And when persons do not adhere to those guidelines or those laws, you are putting persons' life and property at risk, whether it be fire or the ambulance going to get somebody that is in dire need of assistance that need to be brought to the general hospital, or the fire department, especially that is responding to a house fire, a structural fire, or a vehicle accident where person is trapped and you have lives involved.
Right.
Or it could be that a structure that is involved and we are responding in order to see or to perform the task to see whether that we can save the structure from being totally ruined.
Right.
Right? And by persons hindering with our time of response, it would put the person that is in need of help in more pain.
Right.
Or probably might cause them death or injury.
Yeah.
All right, so we're asking persons, whether it be the fire department, the police, the ambulance, or other entity that is using the emergency vehicles, and you hear sirens, you should give way to them in order for them to get to where they are going. And I spoke about speed of response because it is something that we do not take lightly as an emergency department. I'm not just speaking for headquarters, but the Tri-Island. When we are responding, our speed of response is important because time is of the essence.
Right.
The time we leave to the time we get there. It may be a life that is in need of being rescued, somebody that needs to be taken to the hospital, or so forth. Somebody being trapped in a vehicle, you have smoke coming from the vehicle, which indicate that something is wrong. You may need to get that person out as quick as possible, and these sort of things. So we are admonishing persons that when they hear those sirens and they see those lights, to give way to the appliances. All
right. We have a caller on the line, so let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Duncan.
Good morning, Miss Jacob. How are you?
I'm fine.
You
Good morning to those two inspectors there. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, you know what I would like you all to do? You see the vehicles and them that they on the side of the road? Because now those fire truck is big now. So those vehicles, he had a fire over where staying once. So the fire truck coming, the fire truck couldn't come because when he reached by me, he bounced on the bridge, the bridge, so he go back down, and when he going down, he called the small one, and it's a good thing. We village people just help out one another. They help out good with bringing the water. So when this small fire truck come up now, we did done wet up thing already, so I must try to take all those vehicles on the side of the roadway, officer, and I you doing a wonderful job, and thanks my dear sister by your side for bringing that talk come up.
You're welcome, Miss Jacob.
God bless you all, and I love you all.
All right, Miss Jacob.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your call. It's a challenge we face throughout the island, and we are working in collaboration with our partners, the Royal Grenada Police Force, the Traffic Department, to see how we could best have the situation resolved. Persons must also know that any obstruction to the fire appliance, you can be charged for such. Yes, you impede access, or the way you park. You cause obstruction by the way you park, yes?
Right.
And persons can be charged for those offenses.
Okay, something that we don't look at, but I think is important for us to just mention, or maybe I have the wrong idea of what it is. Now, I understand that all fires cannot be put out in the same way. For example, if you throw water on an electrical fire, you make the situation worse. if I understand it correctly. Is it advised that when individuals come in contact with a house fire, whether you are living within the house or you are a neighbor trying to help out, what is the best way? Because it might be a situation where we're outside with a hose wetting a fire and making the fire worse. What would your advice be to people wanting to help in these kinds of situations?
All right. First of all, any help is greatly appreciated by the fire department, and if you are trying to assist somebody, they will be gratefully appreciated. I'm glad you touched on that point, Oli. When a structure is involved and persons are living in it, they tend to wait on the last minute to call for assistance. And that is something that they should rule out. And when they realize that they need assistance, it may be too late. And by the time we arrive, we are being lambasted that we come late, truck don't have water, and these sort of things. So in the process, all right, we are not saying no, that you shouldn't be trying to safeguard your property, but you need to be careful. There are rules that you need to follow, because by you trying to safeguard your home or to extinguish a fire that is there, you can be trapped. And either you suffocate or something hit you in your head or you knock out, and then boom, you just stay and you get burned. All right, and when we reach there, it's too late. All right, so we're asking persons that in the process that they realize there is a fire and it's getting out of control to call the fire department as soon as. Right. You can do so via 911 or 2112 440 or 435 7270. All right. Most times we go to fire scenes and persons tend to assist us. We do appreciate the assistance, but we want the public to know that when we are on the ground and we are in operation, you do not go about and doing like if you know what you're about, because you can put yourself at risk, at exposure of being damaged. You're exposing yourself to the elements that are out there, the toxic fumes and so forth. So if you come to assist, let us know that you would like to assist us. Assistance could simply come in the form of our operator at the appliance give you a length of hose to bring for somebody at the end, or a bottle of water. Right. So we want persons to establish the concern and be mindful that you do not draw on a board, because when we show up at a fire scene, there are procedures that we need to follow. If there is electricity in the building, we do not take the risk. We need to make sure that the current is out. And especially when it's wooden structure, you don't find us entering wooden structures. Right. If it's a wall structure and there is electricity, what we will do is perform an assessment. If the building needs to be searched, we're going to search the building. And when the current goes off, we're going to apply water.
Okay. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because you often hear people saying, well, the firemen come and they just stand up outside.
They stand doing nothing.
And they're not doing anything.
That is a fact. And I could tell you that recently with a fire that we had sometime last year, where we arrived on the scene within minutes, where a dwelling structure was engulfed. The fire was confined to a room. And we did what was required. The individual was out of the structure. We performed a search. We searched for life. Despite they said that he alone is there, we still search. We confined the fire, but our concern was getting the electricity off. Right. We got it off, but at the same time, even though we are not, it appears that we are not doing anything, we are doing something. Right. If there are doors to close, we close them. Right. Because remember the fire triangle.
Yes.
Right. We did what is required of us.
Right. Right. So it's not just about showing up on the scene, pulling out a hose and just wetting the structure.
No.
It's not about that. It comprises of a whole process.
Yes.
A whole process.
And it only takes a split second to make a decision and a split second for you to get injured or you lose your life.
Okay.
So we need to be careful.
All right.
Just to add to what Franklin said, relative to your question, your home and a fire occur. What do you do? Your home and a fire occur, the first thing you want to do is raise the alarm. If you have other persons in the house, you raise the alarm. Fire in the kitchen. Fire, my room is on fire. Somebody call 911. You understand? Part of the things that we ask you to do is to remain calm. Right? Know your escape routes. Why we ask you to remain calm? Because we don't want you to panic. It's normal for people to panic when a fire occurs. If it's an electrical fire, then you need to take off your main switch. If the fire is in a very if the fire is in its initial stage, right, you take off the main switch.
Yeah.
The reason why you take off your main switch because the source, one of the sources that is causing the fire to burn is electricity.
Right.
Right. For example, let's say it is your CPU. If you could unplug it from the wall, you take off you take off the main switch. You de-energize the entire house.
Right.
So what will be happening in your CPU is just molten rubber and wires. That's why we advise people also around your equipment. You shouldn't have paper and other things getting support combustion. Yes. If the fire is large and spreading beyond its point where it started, and let's suppose you didn't have an extinguisher, or you're asleep and you wake up and you get a strong smell of smoke, you need to raise an alarm. So that's again the importance of having smoke detectors. As small as your house may be, it is important to have a smoke detector. Only warning devices. A fire extinguisher. You detect the fire, you have a smoke alarm, it alerts you. You use your fire extinguisher to knock down the fire if it is in its initial stage. Yes, but once the alarm will, the fire alarm or the smoke alarm will trigger off and it will go off loud enough, and everybody in the house will be loud. Till you get them out, your home emergency plan comes into play. What we see happening now is that people have electrical issues, and they are very lucky to be alive these days still. They use water and out it. But when a fire do occur at your home, you wake up, you get your strong smell of smoke. The first thing you need is to raise an alarm, get people out of the house, try and locate where the fire is located. If it is in a small stage and you could extinguish it. If it is no danger to you, if it is growing and spreading rapidly beyond its point, yes? And as the fire continues to grow and spread, you produce more toxic gases and vapors, right? And automatically, if you're not wearing the proper protective equipment, you can breathe in carbon monoxide and other gases, and you can render you unconscious.
Right.
And unconscious, and it's highly likely that you will be burnt and die.
And also not returning for any item, personal artifacts.
Once you're out, stay out. Do not return. You could have a purse inside of $10,000. Out, stay out. We know the history of people who evacuated, re-entered, and never exit walking. Have to carry them out. We know of persons who sustain serious burns as a result of re-entering. As Franklin said earlier on, within 3 minutes, a fire can move from its initial stage to its fully developed stage. Right? And one will have to take in consideration what is in the room, the contents, clothes, the furnishing. All those things contribute to fire growth and spread.
Right.
Yes? So we have a terminology we refer in firefighting, that's what we refer to as the fire load. So everything is in this room. So you're talking about, let's say, look at here, your desk, your chairs, and all the other things that are combustible.
Right.
They add to the load. So to tell you how fast the fire will spread, what type of fire suppression equipment, and the size of equipment you need to contain a fire within that space.
Right.
You understand? But fire occur, remain calm, raise the alarm, get everyone out. Individual attempts at firefighting should not be attempted unless there is no danger to yourself. Right? Okay. Once out, stay out. Make sure you call 911, give location, your name, your address, telephone number you're calling from, the location of the fire, the type of fire, the structure involved. Is anybody trapped? Yes? When you get into this location, after you give particular reference point, because members of the fire department is not au fait with the entire island, so we might be going to a particular area, but we don't know close to what. And if you're leaving off the main road and you have sufficient persons within your home, send someone out so they can meet the firemen and direct them to the path.
To the path.
Yes, because sometimes we have fires in some areas When we get there, probably we have to deploy all the way 200 and plus feet of hose to get to the area to bring the service. You understand? So if you send somebody out, we can easily direct us to the location where the hazard is and take measures to mitigate against it.
All right, we have a caller on the line. Hello.
Good morning to Inspector.
Hi, good morning.
Morning, yeah. I think one of the problems again, many times a report comes to the police, to fire station, about a fire area. But the problem lies with accessibility. Because when the police have said reach there, access to go reach close to the person's home, it's difficult. Right? It's difficult because you see, a lot of people know they want to build a home. But after they build a home, they don't have proper road to go to the home. So when the police come to the police and say, a fire in that home, yes, the police can reach there early. But to reach close to the person or the fire is a problem because the fire truck cannot go up there. Right? And when you look at the situation in Grenada, only the fire truck. There is no other means like say, you have to go pass over, go where there was free water. Right? So see, when people build like, two people should take into consideration proper road. So in case something so happen, the fire truck has access to come close to, which is close to all the fire. Right? But what people are seeking now to move to build, right? And build if you comfortable live there for a long time. Access to vehicle to come up to the home is a problem. So in case a fire took place, it is difficult for a fire truck to go there. So I think in building, people should look at, make sure you get a proper road. So if anything happens, the fire truck will come and all the fire. All right, so Inspector, Ms. Duncan, you all have a wonderful God bless you.
All right, you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, caller. Your point is well taken, and we experience this challenge ever so often, not only in St. George's here, but any part of the island. This challenge raises head, and as responders, we have to come up with measures to get the service to the person in need. Sometimes we will have to use all the hose line we have in our apparatus to bring the service. And there are times that when we get there, the hose lines we have in the apparatus is insufficient. And then the structure probably was already 80% complete. So there is no intervention you could make. You can really do to really prevent the structure. If, for example, in that area you have persons with water supply and so forth, those persons willingly assist with the use of the garden hose and so forth. Notwithstanding, it will reflect in the water bill. But again, they say when your neighbor's house is on fire, you wet yours. You understand? Yeah. And we hope that the time will come when we wouldn't have such challenges, have to experience such challenges relative to where people build an access road and so forth. Because you only speak of fire. Other hazards can occur within that area that will impede the emergency service personnel getting to the area to deliver the level of service that is required. So we hope the situation can be looked into in the future, and those what we call communities that just sprout up like this, we could have proper roads so the services can be delivered.
And that's a very important point, and I'm glad that the caller brought it up because it brings up a more important conversation, and it has to do with personal responsibility. I don't think we grasp really what our role is in a lot of things. When you're building a house, these are all of the things that must be considered. It's not just, I have a piece of land and I'm going to build a house here, or it's a nice spot, I'm going to build a house here. A lot of other things need to be taken into consideration. As you said, access to emergency vehicles, not just a fire truck, but let's say, for example, an individual in the house falls sick and there is need for ambulance service. How does the ambulance get to where you understand, the person is incapable of moving, or you are incapable of moving the person. How do these services get to where I am? And also, people have to understand that it's not the fire department's responsibility to save your house. Basically, And I think that's what happens a lot of the time where people make these comments because they don't understand that we have a personal responsibility to protect our properties, right? If the firemen are called as a result of a fire or so on, they will do their best or the best that they can, given the circumstances. But I think we call and we put on them this Herculean task that you have to come and you have to save my house, you know? And I think we have to understand as well that we have some level of personal responsibility in all of this, that we must make sure that our things are in order, that there isn't even a fire to begin with, and that in the event of a fire, that we can do all that we can to make sure that it doesn't get from point A to point Z quickly. Even the use of water and so on, as you were mentioning, I don't think people are very well educated on what types of fire can be that water can be used on, and what else can you use instead of water to out a fire. So I may get up in the night and I see a fire on my stove, and immediately I take a cup of water and I throw it on it, not knowing if there is oil in the area that can cause it to spread more. Or I may see a fire on my plug and immediately I take a bottle of water and I throw it on my plug, and not knowing that there is a way that can cause the fire to be worse because it's electricity and electricity travels on water. So I think we need to be better educated on how do we deal with these situations.
Let me just say this. Fire safety is a personal responsibility. Safety in general is an individual's responsibility, right? Fire safety for your home, your workplace, and so forth is a family responsibility. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure, whether it's a single family home, right, that you have things under control. Mm-hmm. You secure your matches, your lighters, and other things that could spark a flame from children. Mm-hmm. Right? Look at it, for example. At your home, where do you store your bleach?
Under the kitchen sink.
Right. Where do you store your baking dishes and so forth? Or we refer to as Pyrex dish and
in the cupboard things. Above.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have children in your home, yes?
Yes.
They crawl, they crib, and it's right within their view. Mm-hmm. So we have the hazards at the bottom, and the things that we consider as very important.
At the top.
The baking dishes, the nice fancy glasses and so forth on top.
Yeah.
Yeah? Look at it. In your home, this is where you have it.
Yeah.
Where do you put your matches after you use it?
On top of the fridge.
Right. What do you do after you use a stick of matches? Do you throw it in the waste paper basket?
Well, I usually throw mine in the sink first.
You wet it, make sure it's dead out, and you put it out. Mm-hmm. For example, you have homes where the male or the female, they are smoking, right? And they sit in the living room, they smoke. They might drop asleep. They might take mind-altering drugs, and they might be smoking a cigarette and drop asleep. They might consume a little too much alcohol, and they come home, and they light the stove, and they cremate the pot. You understand? Safety is an individual responsibility, and you must make sure that your home is safe. All the things that can cause a fire, you look at them, and you reduce the risk to as low as reasonable possible. As I mentioned earlier, the situation with gas. For example, if you're frying fish, right, and the frying pot or the frying pan catches a fire, right? What you need to do, the first thing you're going to do is probably get water. It's natural to use water as a way to extinguish fire, but water is cheaply and readily available. Most times it is the first thing people think. But using water and not hot in that pan with that oil wouldn't solve the problem. It will escalate the problem.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is get a pot cover. As the English or the Americans will say, you get a lid and you put over the pot. Yes, but for here we say, pass the pot cover, put over it. If you don't have a pot cover, back in those days we had the crocker's bag, the GCNA, the famous GCNA bag.
Yeah.
You had that in the kitchen as your full mat, right? You dip that into a bucket of water, and you cover your stove. So you smother the fire. You remove the oxygen directly there. You also have the smother, the cooling effect of the wet bag over that frying pan. Right? If it is your stove, the burners just flare up. You need to take off your gas because the gas is the source of fuel.
Yeah.
And remember, in firefighting, fuel is defined as anything that will burn.
That will burn.
And it exists in 3 states: solid, liquid, and gas.
Yeah.
Right? So you turn off your gas. So you reduce that level.
Yeah.
You understand? You want to make sure that you tell your children, do not play with this, do not play with that. If you have a child at a young age and he or she is expressing interest in experiment with matches and lighters and stuff like that, you need to have him spoken to. You could bring him to the fire department. We can provide that level of service. The whole idea, we light mosquito coils, yes? And we put them underneath the bed. Or sometimes we put them just in the area where the curtain is.
Yeah.
And if the wind is blowing and it catches.
Yeah.
We use candles, yes, for some persons who are challenged and the electricity has been disconnected. The lamp or the instrument of the past is no longer there.
Yeah.
Everybody's using a candle.
A candle.
But you just light the candle and you stick it somewhere on the floor. You not put it in a glass jar. Yes? And you have children there. You leave to go down the road to the shop. Children will play with it.
Yes.
Right? Fire occur. There is a school of thought that says when you're leaving home and you're cooking, if you're going to go outside just for 1 minute, turn off your stove.
Right.
Yes? You're cooking again, and do not wear loosely fitted clothes because it can easily come in contact with the flame and cause a fire.
Yeah.
If someone close catches a fire, what you going to do? SDR, stop, drop, and roll. So your individual continues to run, the flame will grow and expand. But when you ask the individual to lie on the floor and roll them over, in the process of rolling over, you smother the fire on them, you wrap them in the blanket, and you get them to medical treatment as quick as possible.
Right.
Yes? These are things that, homeowners should know. And that is why we have Fire Awareness Month. And that is why we're trying to build resilience through fire prevention and safety. So this morning's engagement is to really unearth information so homeowners and so forth, business persons, farmers can take the necessary precautions to avoid such calamity relative to fires, whether it's in the wildfire environment, whether it is in your home, whether it's in your business place. Understand? I have seen fires occur in what we refer as the forest reserve. As a result of persons who just indiscriminately decide to set fires. May give the firemen work to do, but look at what you're doing to the forest reserve. We have fires in the areas of the Dove Sanctuary at Mount Hartman and Perseverance. And the Grenada dove is a protected species.
It is.
And think about what's causing to the environment when you burn. The natural flora in that area has been destroyed. Right? You could think about the downside erosion, soil erosion. Right? Species that are endemic to that area, they die over a period of time. It takes probably 15 to 35 years for that portion of land to regain that level of fertility when you burn. You understand? So while farmers might look at it as a way of, getting rid of bushes and so forth, but it has a far-reaching environmental effect.
Of course.
And we must be mindful of the footprint we leave. You understand? Because what are we leaving for our children? Are we living in an area that is considered to be very forested and so forth, that was providing a lot of or they refer to as the lungs of Grenada, for example, Granite Forest Reserve, and those areas, right? What will happen to those areas if we have indiscriminate burning? What will happen to our rainfall? Relative to water and so forth? What will happen when we have those uncontrolled burning? And with structural fires and so forth, think about what is happening to the environment when you have all these types of pollutants being belted out into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
You understand? So, I mean, it's
And I'm glad you spoke about the environment as well, because apart from us actually lighting fires, going out there and striking a match or whatever to light a fire, there are other elements that we put in the environment that can cause fires, such as glass bottles and paper and so on, especially on a hot day. You know, the refuse that we put out there, whether it's through littering or whatever it may be, can also contribute to that. You know, so we have to be mindful as well of that. We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
I don't can I will come back again.
Good morning, Miss Jacob.
You see what the officer say and what you say about you putting batteries on top of the fridge? That's not a good way to put it. If you have a cupboard, you put it in the cupboard in a paper bag. You fold it up and you put it in your paper bag. And what I does do when I light my stove, I'm making sure I have 2 buckets of water. One to put the matches. When you draw the matches, you light it, you draw the matches, you light the stove and you put it in the bucket of water.
Right.
Don't show it and you put it in a bucket of water. Because I alone, and they teach us that safety thing in school when I was to school. Now I have 73 years of age now, and I alone in my home. Nobody do it with me now. I alone in my home. And officer, are you doing a good job, especially St. David policemen and them? Oh my God, them is my darling sweetheart. Love divine. How kind of thing I could give them?
Yes, Miss Jacob.
I don't even say call them and me give them jokes. Not call them and I give them jokes so they don't laugh. Well, I ain't call them for this weekend. I know when I call them tomorrow, they go beat me, they go batam, but I go take it. Because I don't call them to tell them hello for the week. So you all are doing a good job and I'm praying for you all.
Thank you, Miss Jacob.
All time praying for those police. So God bless you all and I love you all.
All
bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. There's a comment on... Oh, you want to make a comment?
I just want to make something. Just to refer back to Fire Awareness Month and some of the activities that that took place so far. We started off on the 15th with an interview at the GIS. Then on the 16th, Tuesday the 16th, we had a presentation on Rise and Shine on MTV. Today we are with you. On the 22nd, we have a radio interview on WeiVybz. That's around 9:45 in the morning. On the 25th, radio interview to the Point GBN. The 25th also, that same day, we're having an open house throughout the island where persons can visit the various fire stations and interact with fire personnel.
Okay.
And also on that same night, we're having another presentation on WeiVybz on the Michi's program.
Okay.
So we'll be speaking on fire prevention and safety and so forth. And also during this month, we are using our public address system on our vehicles when we respond to fires or when we resolve the situation and we're getting back to the base to broadcast fire safety messages to the public, and in stations where they're using the vehicle to conduct the fire hydrant inspections and so forth, they are also using the public address system to broadcast fire safety messages and so forth.
Okay.
COVID had, restrict us in the amount of things that we really wanted to do. However, we are doing our best with the limited resources available, and we hope that members of the public really pay heed to the messages and so forth.
Okay. All right. So, guys, you've heard it. A number of activities for the Fire Awareness Month. Of course, every day is Fire Awareness Day. Every day should be considered Fire Awareness Day. But with this month, more emphasis is being placed on the message that is being given to fire awareness. And we've spoken about a lot here today. quite a lot of information. The only thing we have not touched is fire hydrants.
Fire hydrants are strategically located throughout the island, yes, and there is always a need for more fire hydrants. And fire department is working along with NAWASA to ensure that we have more fire hydrants installed.
Okay.
And once the resources are available and so forth, hydrants will be installed, but not just putting a hydrant in a particular location. You must do a risk assessment. Right, to determine the type of hydrant. The risk assessment will also tell you what size of line NAWASA have in the area. Yes, they probably might have a 2-inch line.
Right.
And a fire hydrant probably might need a 4 or 6-inch line.
Right.
So they will have to do some upgrading in terms of the line in order to bring the service. So the assessment must be carried out, and you have to take in consideration financing and to have the infrastructure installed. However, having a fire hydrant within your area doesn't take away from your responsibility.
Right.
It is your responsibility to ensure that your home is safe. You put measures in place to reduce the risk of fire occurring. Right. You understand? So you can have fire hydrants within a particular locale, but sometimes a fire occur. You don't have only warning devices. That you're not home, but probably your neighbor hear the alarm.
Right.
So something happening in Jane's house. Let me look and see. Smoke. She could call early, call the fire department. She can take necessary measures, whether it's to start moving out furniture in her home, whether it's getting the garden hose and trying to wet Jane's house, or wetting her house, or calling other persons to alert them, or calling the electricity company, say, we have a fire here in Back Street. You understand? Send a team to take up the current or whatever it is.
Okay. We have a call on the line, and I think that would be our last caller for the day. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Miss
Miss Duncan. Good morning, Mr. Mills.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm there. Good morning, officers.
Morning, sir.
And I'm calling from Carriacou. Listen, when there the financial complex on fire in Grenada, and I see plenty time there is pieces of sponge in the water. Why there is sponge in the water? I want to ask you, please, I would listen you offer.
Okay. He's mentioning, is it sponge or is he speaking about the foam?
I think that would be the foam.
And I'm glad he asked, because I was going to ask that question as well for education purposes. Why do we use the foam truck for certain fires?
All right. It's not a foam truck. It's a fire plant. Some of their plants carry foam,
right?
That are already mixed. Some don't. We have a method we have to use. Different classes of fires, different extinguishing agent. All right. The domestic firefighting and the aerodrome firefighting is different. Aerodrome carry, the capacity of foam is more than the domestic, whereas we in the domestic, we may carry a few bottles of foam.
Right.
And the aerodrome, they may carry more than.
Right.
Well, they will carry more than, because they deal with a higher fuselage of fuel and so forth in aeroplanes and so forth. All right. Based on the type of fire that we go to deal with, especially, let's say one of the service stations or gas station is on fire, we wouldn't use water.
Okay.
Straight, just water like that, right? We would use our foam by the method that we use with our bottles to put out the fire. We wouldn't just go and throw water on it, right? Because different classes of fires requires different extinguishing agents, and that is where the extinguishers again comes in, class A, B, and C, and it goes on. All right. So what the caller probably may have been referring to is basically seeing foam.
Foam. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, it has been a pleasure having you here with us, because, of course, time is upon us now. And we have to leave. Do you guys have any closing words, anything that you'd like to share finally with us before we close?
Well, once again, thanks for the opportunity for being here to the listening ear. I hope that what we have thrown out to you, you guys take it in good faith. We are not here to come down on anybody, but we just want persons to take the necessary steps in the event of a fire or some other destructible event take place. And once again, you can feel free to call the fire department for advice on something that you may have doubts on, so that we can clarify it for you in the event of. Once again, thank you.
All right.
In closing, let me just again thank you and our friend at Nadma for making that link this morning.
Yes.
And just to remind the public of the open house on the 25th. You could visit the fire station closest to you. Fire stations are strategically located throughout Grenada. We have St. George's and the Coronage, Grenville at Grenville Police Station, Sortes, they are in La Fortune, they're no longer at the police station compound, La Fortune. Victoria at the Victoria Police Station, Guave at the Guave Police Station, and then Carriacou at the Carriacou Police Station. Right, visit, interact with the fire personnel, see the equipment we use in our daily operation, have an appreciation of the type of protective gear fire officers wear and stuff like that. Get information on fire prevention and safety. Yes, it is also important that persons know the number to the fire station closest to them or the police station close to them.
Right.
Most persons choose to dial 911, which is a free call. And you give the information related to the type of hazard that is affecting you or your neighbors.
Right.
Fire Awareness Month, building safety, building resilience through fire prevention and safety. It's 1 month of activity, but the whole idea of fire prevention and safety must be centered on person's mind. And we hope that the information broadcast this morning was very helpful to someone. And always remember that safety starts with S, but it begins with you.
Yes.
It is your responsibility.
I like that. Safety starts with S, but it begins with you. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you. And of course, the information was very useful. I just want to add to the open house, all COVID protocols.
All COVID protocols will
yes,
be
you know, you have to say because. All right. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure being here with you this morning. As we say here every day on Hard Talk, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe and be secure. We always want to be talking with you, but we don't ever want to be talking about you. So please do enjoy the remainder of your day and stay tuned for the National Report. It's been a wonderful day, guys.
Hey, are you gonna wear your mask today? You see everywhere you go, there are rules you got to follow, so don't you say COVID-19 will delay. Take the opportunity to save your community. Don't be that guy, put a mask on your face if you're heading outside. It's your life, my life, more lives will be taken if we don't try. If you feel any symptoms, call the hotline. Stay inside until you feel fine. 6 feet away every day. Keep COVID-19 far from away. Keep Grenada safe. Be COVID-19 smart.
Grenada Airport's authority to seek police assistance to deal with kite flying in the vicinity of the Morris Bishop International Airport. Details of this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details to the news for Wednesday, February 17, 2021, I am Sherry Ann Noel. The Grenada Airports Authority is warning that it will seek assistance from the Royal Grenada Police Force to deal with those who continue to fly kites in the vicinity of the airport. A kite was found on the apron at the airport this week, which has raised serious concern for the authority. Mona Vivek Charles, duty manager at MBIA attached to the operations department, says kite flying, especially around this period of the year, can adversely affect air navigation and aircraft operations. She says the 10-mile radius of flight into MBIA is a critical area for pilots, landing as well as for takeoff.
Once we have kites in the vicinity, and when I speak of the vicinity of the airport, I'm extending it to as much as 10 miles. The cord, or what we refer to as the kite thread, it can get snagged into propellers. It can be ingested by aircraft engines, causing engine failure, damages to aircraft, as well as fatalities. In our recent time, as recent as this week, we found a kite on our apron. Our apron is active. That's where we have aircraft movement. And it's very disturbing to see that a kite could arrive here, meaning that it was flying in close vicinity of the airport. At this time, we are asking our citizens, while we understand that kite flying is fascinating, it's a sport, it's a family event, we understand all that, but flying a kite around an airport is challenging, can cause fatalities.
Prohibited areas for kite flying include, but are not limited to, Calais, Frequenté, Fort Judy, St. Paul's, Montparnasse, Mount Morris, and the vicinity of the Lauriston Airport in Carriacou. In recent years, thread from a kite created a scare for operators of one aircraft, which has begun its ascent en route to one of the Caribbean islands.
In 2019, we had an aircraft being grounded here at Grenada at our airport because it ingested the kite twine or thread, whatever we call it, and causing severe damages to the aircraft. The airline had to fly in 2 engineers to Grenada, and they spent tedious hours removing that the cord from the engine. On this note, we are asking our citizens to please adhere to our requests. Avoid flying kites in the areas immediately around the airport.
The Grenada Airports Authority is pleading with the public to adhere to the rules to avoid any catastrophic consequences.
I want to reiterate to our citizens that the entire Grand Anse area, and that includes Golf Course, Mount Hartman, Fort Judy also, we're speaking Fort Judy, Golf Course, True Blue, as far as St. Paul's, to avoid flying kites in those areas. Because kite flying in those areas, if you would recall, that an aircraft could be climbing or descending in that area. That's the critical stage, the final stage of a flight for landing, and it's the beginning stage of an aircraft departing from our airport. So any flying in any area in Point Saline, as far as Sandals area, we ask the public to please adhere to our requests.
Moving along, the Grenada Development Bank has a new product feature aimed at bringing residential and businesses more in line with going the green route in 2021. The bank has initiated a renewable energy and energy efficiency loan that interested parties can use to purchase lighting, cooling equipment, building insulation, and renewable energy. Communications Officer at the GDB, Crystal Jerome, during a recent appearance on GIS Spice Morning program, shared information on the loan for residential and commercial buildings.
We are looking at lighting. We are looking at insulation, probably your windows. We are looking at cooling, maybe your ACs, maybe your heater. Well, we don't really use the heater here in Grenada, but the possibilities are endless with energy efficiency and renewable energy projects.
The GDB's communication officer says the loan is timely as it's a perfect time to become energy efficient.
Saving energy saves on cost. Because remember, with energy, you pay for what you use.
Right.
So the less energy you use, the less you pay, which leaves you with a surplus to do whatever. Maybe you want to save it, probably you want to invest in something, probably I don't know what you would like to do with the surplus, but saving energy allows you to save money. And in terms of customers, we do have do I want to say special? We do have special terms and conditions for customers of the bank relating to energy efficiency and renewable energy. So the special here, it targets our current home mortgage customers. We are offering them the opportunity to have a climate resilient home.
Okay.
So, for our current home mortgage customers, you can receive a maximum of $10,000 to make your home a more resilient one. Here, we are saying that you will not be expected to pay any administrative fees. There will be no markup on your mortgage loan. You will receive I would say a weighted average in terms of interest rates, and you can get your home closer to the climate smart one that we would want for the future.
The loan comes with a 4.99% interest rate with an 8-year period for repayment. This is the National Report. The news returns after the break.
Hey, are you gonna wear your mask today? You see everywhere you go, there are rules you got to follow, so don't you say COVID-19 will delay. Take the opportunity to save your community. Don't be that guy, put a mask on your face if you're heading outside. It's your life, my life, more lives will be taken if we don't try. If you feel any symptoms, call the hotline. Stay inside until you feel fine. 6 feet away every day. Keep COVID-19 far from away. Keep Grenada safe. Be COVID-19 smart.
Welcome back. Local productive alliances that will benefit under the AgriCom project have been learning more about the benefits in an update meeting held recently. Public Relations Officer within the Ministry of Agriculture, Mina Booker, tells us more in this report.
Staff of the procurement unit of the OECS Regional Competitiveness AgriCom project, along with a 2-member delegation from the Ministry of Finance's procurement unit on Tuesday, met with the first batch of productive alliances that will, over the next 12 months, receive grant funding towards their business ventures. The AgriCom project is one of the major projects being implemented by the government of Grenada through the Ministry of Agriculture, funded by the World Bank or the International Development Association and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development in the amount of US $4,732,586.18 EC will be disbursed to 12 productive alliances consisting of approximately 230 farmers, fishers, and agro-processors. The meeting at the National Stadium featured a presentation from Jenny Alexander Lalji, Senior Procurement Officer at the Ministry of Finance. She explained to the beneficiaries the World Bank's procurement regulations and other mandatory guidelines, rules, and procedures that should be adhered to as beneficiaries will begin procurement of goods and services.
Always develop your detailed specifications and scope of works. Scope of works for your consultants, so you want to hire, specifications for your goods and works. Always take some time and develop proper specifications. Limit the use of brand names, except when it is really absolutely necessary. Always get at least 3 quotations or CVs, and your direct contracting and your direct selection would need prior approvals, and submit all documentation with your payment requests.
The Grenada Cocoa Association is one of the organizations that have been approved for support. Representative Samuel Braffett speaks of their initiative to increase value addition in Grenada's cocoa.
We want to ensure that we are able to continue to produce not only for the European Union but for even our own people, that the cadmium in our cocoa is as low as possible. With the AgriCom project, we have 15 farmers that will be benefiting under that project. But additionally, we also be a supplier. One, being a supplier will ensure that the farmers get the correct fertilizer that meets our standards. We'll be building a chocolate plant in Moncton, right? Moncton is one of the ideal places because our projects have basically two components. One, producing chocolate, which is we'll be using raw material from our diamond plant, right? Because we are doing a milk chocolate plant in Moncton. But additionally, we have a big tourist component in it because normally our focus in Grenada is tourism, but we also need to do value added. So we're doing value added and at the same time building a tourist component.
Another of the beneficiaries is the St. Patrick's Goat Farmers Association. Their focus will be to increase the production of goat milk for the local market.
Our business will be green pastures. Well, we have been working on that project maybe for over almost 10 years. However, we started up through the Ministry of Agriculture, and then we continue with the project, trying to put things together because it was started as a food security project where we would use go back and goat's milk and to get our people to start using goat's milk. So that is where the initiative comes from, and we thought it was very good.
So far, 4 of the 12 productive alliances received first tranche disbursements valued at over 720,000 EC.
And with that story, we come to the end of the National Report for Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Sharian Noel, thanking you for viewing.